TCAP Review 5, Part 2, West Africa, the Trans-Saharan Caravan Trade and its Impact on West Africa. The Trans-Saharan Trade was a network of trade routes that connected West Africa with North Africa and the Middle East through the Sahara Desert. For centuries, caravans of camels traveled across the desert, carrying goods, ideas, and cultures between distant regions. Two of the most valuable items exchanged were gold and salt. West Africa had rich gold mines, especially in the forests of southern Ghana and Mali. North Africa, on the other hand, had large deposits of salt, especially in places like Tagaza. Salt was extremely valuable because it was used to preserve food and maintain health. In addition to gold and salt, other goods included ivory, kola nuts, cloth, copper, and horses. Sadly, slaves were also part of the trade. People captured in war or raids were sold and transported across the desert to work in homes, farms, or armies. The caravan trade also brought Islam into West Africa. Muslim merchants and scholars traveled with the caravans, building mosques and teaching the Quran. Over time, many West African rulers and citizens converted to Islam. They built mosques, supported Islamic schools, and blended Islamic practices with local traditions. Islamic architecture, education, and the Arabic language influenced West African society. Cities like Timbuktu became centers of learning, known for their libraries and mosques, and scholars from across the region gathered there. The use of camels allowed traders to cross the vast Sahara Desert, forming caravans that could transport large quantities of goods. These caravans were essential to the trade's success and safety. The wealth generated from trade helped build powerful empires like Mali and Songhai. These empires used their wealth to expand territories, strengthen their armies, and promote culture and religion. The trade routes helped cities like Timbuktu and Jenne grow rich and influential. These cities became centers of Islamic culture and learning, attracting scholars from across Africa and the Middle East. Libraries and universities, such as the Sankore University in Timbuktu, preserved knowledge in many subjects including math, science, medicine, and philosophy. The Trans-Saharan trade was not just about goods. It was also about the exchange of ideas, religions, technologies, and cultures, making West Africa part of a larger world. Key terms and definitions: caravan, a group of traders traveling together for safety and support. Key terms and definitions: Sahara, the desert separating North Africa and West Africa. Key terms and definitions: convert, to adopt a new religion or set of beliefs. Key terms and definitions: preserve, to protect or maintain. Key terms and definitions: urbanization, the development of cities and towns. Summary: the Trans-Saharan caravan trade played a vital role in shaping West Africa by introducing Islam, facilitating cultural exchange, and creating economic prosperity. The trade of salt, gold, and enslaved people left a lasting legacy on the region. The role of griots in West African history and culture. In West African society, griots played a vital role in preserving and transmitting history, culture, and values. A griot, pronounced griot, was a storyteller, historian, musician, poet, and advisor all in one. Griots memorized and performed the oral histories of their people, often accompanied by instruments like the kora, a stringed instrument similar to a harp. Because West African societies traditionally did not use writing to record their histories, griots became living libraries. They passed down stories about ancestors, kings, battles, alliances, and lessons for life from generation to generation. These stories were told in engaging ways, using rhythm, music, and performance to make the tales memorable. Griots were key figures in West African societies, responsible for preserving history, culture, and traditions through storytelling and music. Often known as walking libraries, griots were highly respected and held vast knowledge of their communities. Griots were historians, storytellers, musicians, and advisors. They memorized events, family histories, and important societal knowledge, passing these down through generations. Their role was usually inherited within families. In societies with limited written records, griots served as the primary record keepers. They preserved stories of past events, the deeds of kings, and moral lessons, keeping the history and culture alive for future generations. Griots used a blend of storytelling, music, poetry, and dance. Instruments like the kora and balafon accompanied their tales, making their performances memorable and engaging for the community. Griots were influential in West African communities, not just as entertainers, but as educators and wise advisors. Their knowledge was valuable, and they were often consulted on political and social matters. Griots also played a key role in government and society. Kings and nobles relied on them to advise on political decisions, mediate disputes, and remind leaders of the wisdom of the past. In some cultures, the griot's word was considered as important as written law. One famous story passed down by griots is the Epic of Sundiata, which tells the tale of Sundiata Keita, the founder of the Mali Empire. This epic not only explains how Mali began, but also teaches values like bravery, perseverance, and leadership. Legacy of griots. Today, the legacy of griots lives on today. Modern griots and their descendants continue to preserve and promote West African cultural heritage, reminding us of the importance of oral traditions and storytelling. Even today, griots continue to perform in West Africa, helping to preserve culture and identity in a fast-changing world. Their legacy reminds us of the power of oral tradition and the importance of storytelling in understanding our history. Mansa Musa, the legacy of a Malian king. Mansa Musa was one of the most famous and wealthiest rulers in history. He ruled the Mali Empire from 1312 to 1337 during its golden age. Under his leadership, Mali expanded its territory, increased its wealth, and became known around the world. Mansa Musa ruled the Mali Empire from 1312 to 1337. He is regarded as one of the wealthiest individuals in history. His leadership brought Mali to its height as a cultural, economic, and educational powerhouse. Mali was central to trade routes that connected West Africa to North Africa and beyond. Mansa Musa is best remembered for his legendary pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324. As a devout Muslim, he undertook the Hajj, a religious journey required of Muslims who are able to travel to Mecca. But Musa's pilgrimage was not an ordinary trip. He traveled with a caravan of tens of thousands of people, including soldiers, officials, slaves, and merchants. He brought hundreds of camels loaded with gold, and along the way he distributed so much of it that it caused inflation in cities like Cairo for years. Stories of his generosity and wealth spread throughout Africa, the Middle East, and even Europe. In 1324, Mansa Musa embarked on a Hajj to Mecca, fulfilling an Islamic obligation. His entourage included 60,000 people and hundreds of camels carrying gold. Along the way, he distributed gold generously to the poor and local rulers. His journey demonstrated Mali's wealth and spread its reputation far and wide. But the pilgrimage wasn't just about showing wealth, it had religious and educational goals. Along the way, Musa met scholars and architects, many of whom he invited to return to Mali. He brought back books, knowledge, and Islamic teachings. He built mosques, schools, and libraries, especially in Timbuktu, which he transformed into one of the most important Islamic centers in the world. The cultural and religious impact was profound. Mansa Musa returned from his pilgrimage with scholars, architects, and artists. He funded the construction of mosques, including the Jingwereber Mosque in Timbuktu. Timbuktu became a center for Islamic education, housing the University of Sankore. His efforts helped establish Islam as a major religion in West Africa. Mansa Musa's reign helped make Mali a hub of culture, religion, and learning. His pilgrimage connected West Africa more closely to the Muslim world and left a legacy of faith, education, and prosperity. Mansa Musa's distribution of gold during his pilgrimage caused inflation in places like Cairo. Despite temporary disruptions, his wealth attracted traders and scholars to Mali. Mali's control of gold and salt trade routes established it as a dominant economic power. The fame of Mali's riches spread across Europe, Asia, and Africa. Conclusion: West Africa's geography, religious beliefs, empires, trade routes, oral traditions, and leaders made it one of the most vibrant and important regions in the medieval world. From the deserts of the Sahara to the markets of Timbuktu, and from the words of griot to the golden caravans of Mansa Musa, the region shaped global history. Understanding the people, ideas, and systems that developed in West Africa helps us see the richness of African civilizations and their influence across continents. Mansa Musa's pilgrimage elevated Mali's status in the global imagination. European mapmakers, inspired by his wealth, included Mali on their maps. The Catalan Atlas, 1375, depicted Mansa Musa holding a gold nugget, symbolizing his wealth. Mali became known as a land of great riches and culture. Lasting legacy. Mansa Musa's reign transformed Mali into a global center for trade, education, and culture. His contributions to Islamic education and architecture endure in Mali's history. He is remembered as one of Africa's most influential leaders, symbolizing prosperity and wisdom.